Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Carbonite Convos. I'm sure as some of you have seen these past couple weeks, me and Alec are doing something a little new. This is actually the first time we've been able to record with both of us in one place. As you know, he's from Arizona, I'm from Pittsburgh, but we're both originally from Florida. So we were able to link up in Pittsburgh and drive down to, my family's house in Florida. So we got a lot of awesome content for you guys for this week. Today, we're just going to be talking about a couple of the videos from last week where we talked about like Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, Ben Solo, their relationship and how that kind of ties in together, and also Alex's video on how Leia got the Bausch bounty hunter armor. And then we're going to get into a little of the news that was announced about The Bad Batch, a new animated series on Disney Plus. So Alec, I don't know how we want to kick this off, but let's just get right into these videos.
First and foremost, I hope everybody is going to enjoy this new type of format we're going to be kind of basing the channel on, where we're going to put out a couple small videos per week. For example, last week was the video about the Falcon and about Leia and the Bausch armor. And then, on the third video of the week is going to be kind of us talking about things we learned or things that we couldn't quite cover in that video time. To kind of get things going, let's just dive into the first video from last week, talking about Chewbacca, Ben Solo, and the Millennium Falcon, those sort of things. Nick, if you want to take over that one, man, that's all you.
I don't think we need to really go over exactly what the videos were about, because hopefully anybody who watches this video, hopefully they watched the the videos from last week. I think it's really cool to see Chewie and Ben Solo's relationship, because there's been all this art out there about what it would have looked like if Ben would have grown up and stayed with the family. Obviously Chewie's a big part of Han Solo and Leia's life. He's best friends with them, so he would have been a big influence in Ben's life as well. So I think it's just interesting finally seeing some back information about their relationship, because obviously they were very close. As it said in the book, it said he cuddled a baby Ben in his arms. So I think it was just really cool, like I said, to see more of the lighter side of their relationship, because the only thing we've really seen on screen is Chewie shooting Kylo in the abdomen. Other than that, we haven't seen a lot of. I don't think we really see any scenes with those two together. I know there was some concept art for The Rise of Skywalker with Chewie hanging in the chains and Ben right in front of him. I assume he's interrogating him. So we haven't really seen a lot of their relationship. I think the rest of the video it's pretty interesting. I'll get into that in case you have any thoughts first.
No, I really liked that little quote about Chewbacca holding a baby Ben. I would have loved to see the pureness of Ben at the time. Obviously, yes, sometimes, but no one's necessarily born evil in most cases. And you can tell that obviously Ben or Kylo throughout the sequel trilogy is sort of corrupted. So I would like to see him before those events and just kind of get some feel for his personality and how he was as a child. And then I love the fact about obviously we've seen Solo. We know how Han won the Falcon from Lando. And it really showed what type of person Han was and how much he really cared about Chewbacca when he turned that cape closet into like a little bunker for him. Basically, gave him his own little private room, gave him a place to go whenever he wanted. I think that just goes to show the true love in that friendship and almost the brotherhood between the two.
Definitely. I think it was just a cool video throughout, just because you don't really think of how Lando and Ben kind of correlate with each other. Obviously, all these characters, they're in the same universe. I don't know who has crossed paths with who in every situation, but it's cool that we can, with a video like this, you can start with Lando being a good smuggler, being good at sabacc, and it leading from his skill at a sabacc table to Han winning the Falcon, Han changing the Falcon for Chewie, changing some stuff in there so he has his private quarters, and then in Rise of Skywalker when Lando comes back to the Falcon, he finds this in Chewie's bunker, which I'm sure this clearly wasn't the first time that Lando had been in the Falcon. Obviously, he was in it in the original trilogy, but it's kind of, I just wonder what was going through Lando's head. The first time he saw, that's his ship, that was his baby.
Right.
He loved it as much as Han did. So I'd love to see what Lando thought of the changes, just because, his capes were almost
Right.
everything to him. So he had a pretty strong relationship with his capes. So I'm sure he would have been a little angry at first to see that it was changed, but he can't expect it to stay the same. So it's just really interesting how we start from Lando, get to how Han won the Falcon, what he did to change it for Chewie, Lando ending up going back to the Falcon, finding this recording, and it ended up leading to a story about Han and Ben's relationship. So I just think that's a really cool kind of storyline. I don't know if you'd call that. Yeah. But that's pretty much all I have for the first video. I thought it was more heartwarming than anything like real concrete information. But let's get into Leia and Bausch, because that was actually really interesting.
So with Bausch, to be honest, there's really not that much canon information about him out there.
Shout out Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, jeez. Man, they got good stuff there. But obviously there's a lot of legends. But I was always really, really confused about how that armor even mattered.
I didn't even really know who it was, unless you actually look up who he is, who Bausch is, and it's just what his occupation is. You wouldn't even know, because that could have easily just been a mask that Leia threw together just to disguise herself, So
right.
It was. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and the outcome of it, I thought it was very interesting. I was actually a really big fan of how they introduced Maz into the equation there.
Yeah.
Because obviously in The Force Awakens, Han and Maz have some sort of relationship and they go way back, but you're not exactly sure. So I don't know if that was something that people are really interested about. I know I'd love to know more about the nature of their relationship, but I like how they threw her in the mix, and
it's just great how they can make all these characters connect.
They fit.
Because in The Force Awakens and in The Last Jedi, you can tell that Maz helps the Resistance, and Leia arguably is one of the main leaders of the Resistance. So they have this relationship as well. In The Force Awakens, we can see that Maz has worked with Leia in the past, but you never know how far back that relationship goes. You go to find out that Maz is like 1,000 years old or something like that in The Force Awakens. But you've never heard of her working with the crew up until this movie. So I think it's cool how the Star Wars universe, they're able to connect so many people from the original trilogy to the sequel trilogy, and even obviously even the prequels. But you never see, obviously, in the prequels, original trilogy, you don't see Maz because she's not a character yet. But now that they've made her canon, they threw her into the movies, they can link her at other points in the Star Wars timeline, which is really cool. And now, every time I watch Return of the Jedi now, I'll know that Maz is there in the background somewhere, pretty recent, like kind of recently before that movie, because she helped Leia get the armor. So it's pretty interesting.
Right. Again, I was just always super confused. She just kind of shows up, obviously before one of the most important scenes in the original trilogy, with Jabba's palace. and then talking and finding out that the idea to use that armor and for Leia to try to infiltrate his palace was actually Maz's idea.
Yeah.
And obviously, like in the video said, things almost went according to plan. You know, Leia was able to go in there and unfreeze Han and, you know, get Chewie out. But I really like the fact that in the story, Jabba was tipped that someone was going to be coming in there. He wasn't told that it was going to be Leia exactly, but he was told it was going to be a smuggler.
Really?
So I don't think he necessarily knew what he was expecting, but he knew he was on guard for some reason around Solo, and whatever reason, because obviously at the time Han Solo was a pretty wanted man by a lot of people. So I think he had to kind of have his guard up, and he definitely knew right away whenever Leia came in there that something was a little funky. Obviously, she ends up getting captured and turned into Slave Leia, which I think fans appreciate. But
especially the male ones.
Especially the male fans, I think they tend to like that scene. But anyways, I was just a big fan of that whole thing, and I think it was a really growing moment for me as a Star Wars fan, learning about that.
Definitely. So what do you think? You want to get into some Bad Batch now?
Yeah, man. I think this is by far the most important part of the video today. I am so excited. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah.
You know, watching through Clone Wars, you really grow a passion for the clones, man.
You do.
Whether it's, you know, any of them, really. Everyone has their favorites. Personally, mine's Rex. I think that's yours as well.
Yeah.
And in season 8, when they were, seven. In season 7, when the Bad Batch was introduced, man, I was like, whoa, these dudes are interesting.
Just leads to a lot of questions, you know, and I think now we're going to have some of those answered, because I know one that was floating around the internet a lot was with these guys being the Bad Batch and them, I'm trying to find, like, not being programmed like every other clone. Like, they have flaws that actually make them very versatile.
They're
exactly.
Human-esque.
You know, it makes you wonder, did they go through with Order 66? Because did they have the chip? Did the chip work, even if they did have the chip? So we know now that the Bad Batch is going to be directly after the events of the Clone War. So, you know, it leads to, we don't have the answers yet, but we're gonna soon, because I personally don't think they would have gone through with Order 66. I don't know why, you know, I can't really give a big explanation about it, but I just think something was up with their chips, and there wouldn't be really much to tell if they would have gone through with Order 66. Obviously, they're going to have Echo with them now. Right. So I think it's going to, what are there, 5?
There's five, including Echo, which I'm glad you brought up, because I don't think, with them having Echo, I don't think Order 66 would have been one of their, you know, goals, because obviously with Echo, he's not even a clone anymore.
But you wonder about Echo, because he was normal. Like, he was a regular clone. Like, True. He didn't have anything wrong with him up until, you know, the Imperials took, well, not Imperial, but just, who was he taken by? It was not the banking clan, shoot, I can't remember his name right now, but we all know who it is, and I'm sure we'll put a picture in. I can't remember his name right now, but he was taken by them and just kept alive, almost the same way that Master Luminara was in Rebels, where they had her body and they just kind of, it was different because Luminara was actually dead, but Echo, they kept him alive using technology, literally, they barely kept him alive, and he obviously wasn't himself after, you know, he kind of woke back up. But it's really cool that he's going to be a part of it. And I know I read that this is just the beginning. So, you know, we've already been blessed with the Clone Wars and Rebels. Now we're getting the Bad Batch, and apparently more is on the way.
Right. I like the Bad Batch arc in Clone Wars alone was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was my second favorite, because obviously the last 4 episodes of that season were I liked that. And then the Bad Batch was obviously next. But the other arc, which was about Ahsoka and the sisters, I wasn't a huge fan. It was cool
It was
because
all right.
yeah, I liked it because you got to learn a little bit about the crime syndicates and Maul's role with them. But other than that, I just wasn't too interested in it. But we got to learn about some new characters, which is pretty cool. But I'm excited for the Bad Batch. I'm on StarWars.com right now. It says, I'm just going to give you a quick little rundown. It says, the show follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch, first introduced in the Clone Wars, as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone War. Members of Bad Batch, a unique squad of clones who vary genetically from their brothers in the Clone Army, each possess a singular, exceptional skill, which makes them extraordinarily effective soldiers and a formidable crew. In the post-Clone War era, they will take on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find new purpose. So it's really cool how it says how they are going to find new purpose, because clones were bred for war. They were bred for and made for this Clone War. So you wonder, what are they doing after the Clone War? Like, I assume, because they are human. They weren't made in a humane way, but they are human. So them knowing that their sole purpose was war and to kill the Jedi, I'm sure the ones who survived, they had a pretty hard time after the war, just with
living with what they've done. Not even if that's something I hope they kind of talk about too. I love if they did that. The ones that did go through with Order 66, like after, because they weren't evil.
You wonder if they felt bad.
Right, exactly. Like, did they feel remorse for what they did, or were they so brainwashed that they all of a sudden just felt nothing? Obviously,
or they just felt like, that the Jedi betrayed them. So like, why would they feel bad?
I don't know.
But they are humans. They feel these emotions. So after the Clone War is over, how do they? What is their purpose in life? Like, they're soldiers. There's no real war going on, and I don't know. I just feel like that'd be a very emotional story, seeing how they're just living, like how they live with what they've done, and just where they find purpose in their lives. So we're going to get a little bit of that in the Bad Batch. I'm just trying to think. You wonder if they run into Rex at all. There's a lot of different possibilities that can come from this. With Rex being in Return of the Jedi, and then the actor for Jango Fett is going to be in Mandalorian season 2, and I've done a lot of thinking of that. That could either him being Boba Fett, or it could be an older Captain Rex. So we don't really know what, I can't remember the actor's name, but we don't really know what role he's playing.
Right.
But this could open the door to not cameos, but a lot more appearances by the Bad Batch, and just seeing how they go through life after the Clone War, because they already kind of did themselves. They go through their own trials and tribulations because they're not the normal clones. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they fit in the galaxy after the Clone War. Trying to think if there's any other news.
And that's a release date is expected in 2021, right?
2021. I'm not. It doesn't.
They haven't said
anything.
A month or a month yet.
No. It's
okay.
They say this is just the beginning too, which really excites me, because
everyone knows the galaxy's huge, man. They can literally, if Disney Plus is going to be this main animated series revenue based thing, there's limitless options.
Oh, well, yeah, there's an infinite universe. They could go they could make a show on each of the Bad Batch. Like, I don't know how well they do, but people will watch it. The Clone Wars was loved by many. It was loved so much that it got canceled, then came back because the fans demanded it. So now think of that. Clone Wars got canceled. They had to bring it back because the fans loved it so much, and now another show is coming off of it. And it's executive produced by Dave Filoni, that's
huge.
Awesome news.
He's awesome, man.
The second coming of George Lucas, it seems like. He's like the reincarnation of George Lucas. It's really cool. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to see which way they take it and just what comes next from it, because I know they say this is just the beginning, but is it going to be, following that same line of the Bad Batch, Ahsoka, Rex, like that, or is it going to be a lot different animated series from different time periods in Star Wars? Because I'm sure if they made a series on, I don't know, Watto and his like slave trade, junkyard trade, like people would still watch that, because I'm sure there's still a lot to go on, especially on Tatooine.
No, I was gonna ask, like, if you could pick one little story that you know a little bit about for them to kind of go off on, what do you think you'd choose?
Like from any Star Wars era?
Any era, like what would be your, if because they're talking about this is just the beginning, and now with Disney's money, they're gonna be able to do a lot more. Like what would be your little arc you'd like to know about, like learn about?
Man, that's a good one. I'd like to see a younger Yoda, like before he was Grandmaster. Like I think it'd be cool to see
Like
him out
Padawan?
on. What's up?
Like a Padawan?
Maybe, yeah. I think that'd be really cool. I'm just trying to pick some of my favorite characters, because we're already getting an Obi-Wan spinoff.
Right.
Seen him in Clone Wars, a little bit in Rebels, so it's like we have him. If I had to pick one, I know it's a common character, the most common character, but I would love to see more of Vader. I don't think you can get enough of him. I'd like to see, maybe that's what we're getting to, because with the Bad Batch, it's immediately following the Clone War. Obviously, Vader has a lot going on in that time, so maybe we could get a Vader show. Where's Vader Immortal on the timeline? Because that's coming out on PlayStation VR.
I'm not sure.
TV show, so I got to get the PSVR because I have to watch that show. But yeah, I'd love to see more Vader. What about
Absolutely. You? And after you bring that up, I might agree with you.
Yeah.
I'd love to see just more. It's just obviously like so well known, and everyone's opinion is the same on this. We need more Boba Fett, man.
Yeah.
Like what happened? Like there's been teasers. That's what
we're getting now.
I mean, maybe there's been fan trailers and all that stuff made for years now, and I mean, people want that.
Yeah.
I know it's got to be the most demanded thing out there, a Boba Fett movie or a Boba Fett show or something along those lines. Because there's no way he just died right there. Like with how much information's out there, like in the conspiracies and all that, it's too cool for it to just die right then and there.
Definitely. I'm trying to think. I'd like to, because we've talked about from a certain point of view. It's 40 short stories from the original, from A New Hope, and we're gonna do a new series on that book because there's just so much awesome information. But they do one story. They start at the beginning, finish at the end, of one character in the background. So like the first story is I can't remember who it is, but I think like the third story is the stormtrooper who zapped Leia. And he's just a stormtrooper that we know, but now that you read the book, he has this full backstory. He's like a teenager or something like that. So it'd be pretty cool to see a series about maybe like a stormtrooper squadron,
or when they first start using humans as
who knows, because
again.
Like the only time you see a stormtrooper without his mask is Finn. So it'd be pretty cool to see a stormtrooper like maybe like the Bad Batch, but stormtroopers, just to see.
You see him a little bit in Rebels. It's animated.
Their masks though.
The young ones.
Oh yeah, the young ones.
The young one, but it kind of humanizes them.
That's the point. It's like this book humanizes all these characters. Like
so, that actually be really interesting to see about like
cool.
It's almost a military movie based on stormtroopers, and you see in like all these military movies, those characters, you become humanistic.
Imagine. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
It's like Star Wars has a lot of action. Some movies more than other, but Rogue One, I feel like is the first one where we see real militaristic. I don't know what the word is, but military-like scenes. With you have the AT right above, you have soldiers running through the fields and through the beaches on Scarif. It'd be cool to see like picture Captain America, the first Avenger, that movie. Picture that, but Star Wars about like stormtroopers, where it's like a war movie in like Solo. Sorry, like the scene in Solo where Han is in the Imperial Army.
Right.
And it's just like this war-ridden movie to start off with, where you see a bunch of firing, people are dying, but like it's kind of gruesome, but it like shows the actual war side. You know, we see that a little in Clone Wars, but it's animated and it's a little, I don't know, the deaths don't hit that hard. But like, what if you make a live action show about stormtroopers where you really get to know these characters and how they get through war? I think that'd be really cool. But I think, you know, we're running out of time here. I know we didn't want to keep it too long. Are there any other thoughts you had on the topic?
No, man, just excited. Really like their decision on these animated series. I think they're going to get nothing but better, especially with the man himself, Filoni, directing and being behind these projects. But I'm good on my end.
Definitely.
Thank you guys again for tuning in. It's always a blast making these, and hopefully we're putting out stuff that you guys like to see.
Definitely. Just to echo Alec, thanks again, and we will catch you guys next week with a couple again with the new format, a couple short videos, just so they're easy for you guys to watch. And then towards the end of the week, we'll do a little recap and just talk about those videos and any news that comes out next week. So I think, also happy birthday to Han Solo, Harrison Ford. It's his birthday today, so shout out to him. Other than that, I think we'll just talk to you guys. We'll see you guys next time, and you know, may the Force be with you guys.
Remember, the Force will be with you.